Okay, welcome everyone. I am Julia Grove. I am the Senior Director of Marketing at OneRail, and I'm pleased to bring together today's panel of experts on the topic of freight audit pay and claims. Just a little bit of housekeeping. To participate in the Q&A, please use the Q&A feature to type and submit any questions that come up, and a recording of this session will be available probably later today or sometime tomorrow. So we will follow up with a recording. Joining us today is Joseph Vargas, founder and CEO of Gojo Logistics, a Houston-based company he established in 2017. With 10 plus years of experience in logistics, he has led Gojo Logistics in successfully partnering with industry giants like Exxon, Shell, and Lowe's to provide reliable final mile delivery solutions. With a strong commitment to efficiency and customer satisfaction, Joseph continues to drive innovation in the logistics industry. We also have joining us Ed Karst, CFO at OneRail. Ed oversees the company's financial performance, capitalization, and reporting. Prior to OneRail, Karst was an entrepreneur and growth company financial executive, having founded companies in the insurance, technology, private equity, and publishing industries. He also served as CFO of a hypergrowth service provider to Silicon Valley technology firms. Ed began his career in investment banking with Bear Stearns in New York. He holds an undergraduate degree from University of Pennsylvania and an MBA from Stanford University. And lastly, but not least, we have Eddie Masica, Vice President of Product at OneRail. Eddie leads product strategy and innovation. He has been instrumental in shaping OneRail's success since its early days. With a background in graphic and interactive design, he has spent the past 20 years designing, building, and productizing software across industries, including freight pricing, streaming, karaoke, machine monitoring, insurance, CRMs, and healthcare. His expertise in creating seamless, data-driven solutions continues to drive OneRail's mission to transform last mile delivery. And now for why we are here, OneRail recently conducted a survey of over 300 finance professionals in the supply chain to find out more about the key challenges they face when it comes to auditing and paying invoices, as well as handling claims. The survey also asked about how they handle these current challenges. Our panel will discuss their points of view when it comes to invoicing and handling of payments and claims. So to kick us off, oops, sorry, I forgot to flip the presenter slide. So to kick us off, Eddie, tell us about the survey. Who did you speak to, and why did you decide to carry out the survey now?
Yeah, so the survey went to various industries or verticals, right? Largely, though, folks from the finance department were our core respondees that we had. And really, what kind of sparked all of this was we've been doing our own auditing internally and paying, and we knew that there was a signal for improvement. We knew there was benefits for improvement. And then additionally, the kind of core catalyst that really sparked that idea to go out and do a survey was we were looking at improving that, and we were shopping some other tools and realized there was a gap in the market. We had a customer that was kind of dealing with the problem on their own and from another space. So after doing some quick sanity checks, surveying, folks that we have that either trusted partners as customers, advisors, and then just through doing some of that RFP discovery work ourselves, we realized that there's probably a bigger problem here, and that survey really helped knock out, or reinforce that there was a problem.
Thanks, Eddie. Yeah, and so one of those findings is that 80% of companies encounter discrepancies in delivery charges compared to the initial quotes. This is a question for all panelists. Freight audit pay and claimants processes are often seen as necessary but complex. From your perspectives, what are the biggest inefficiencies in the industry today? Ed, we'll start with you first.
Sure, and thanks for having me on the panel today. And great to talk about this, really critical issue. As a CFO, watching costs, especially on major cost line items, is it's part of the job. It is the job. So, we deal routinely with customers that spend tens or even hundreds of millions of dollars a year in delivery. And if those costs aren't well controlled, that's a real big problem for the CFO and for the company financially. So, there is a large ecosystem of companies that do this type of work for first mile or mid mile, like, truckload or less than truckload. A lot of them have some technology and some processes, but what they all lack is the ability to really extend this into the last mile space, which is where OneRail really focuses. So, last mile delivery is unique. It's got a lot of challenges. First and foremost, every delivery is kind of, smaller. It often involves customization in terms of the type of vehicle, in terms of the distance, in terms of the, additional services and accessorials that might be required. So getting what you pay for is an extraordinarily difficult problem to manage in terms of controlling these costs. So, when you take a look at, not like, dozens or hundreds or thousands of deliveries, but getting into the, hundreds of thousands or millions of deliveries like we do for some of our customers, managing that expense and doing it accurately is extraordinarily difficult. I'm not surprised at all at this number. And, I can tell you that just having done, as Eddie mentioned, outsource work on freight audit and pay for last mile for some customers on our own, we routinely see overspend of 5 to 10% versus what people should really be paying. So, this is an area where I think people are absolutely correct in their guess. Most companies are overpaying for this, and this is a real source of leakage, and this is something where putting together an active management strategy is super critical for the company's bottom line.
Thanks, Ed. Joseph, are you
Yeah.
surprised by the statistic? I mean, do you ever hear from your retail customers about these kinds of discrepancies?
Yeah. So I'm very surprised to see 80%. Which I'm included in the 80% as well. I see discrepancies all the time. Shipper. Most of the shippers, they calculate rates based on a variety of factors. So even with inflation, the numbers can change. So this is one reason why you may see one rate, the next day you're going to see another, another rate. But although we handle over hundreds of orders a day, human errors can happen as well. For example, putting in the incorrect inputting on a shipment, the weight of it, how many boxes are on an order, stuff like that. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. So Ed, freight costs and invoice accuracy directly impact the bottom line. How do you currently evaluate and optimize freight spend? And what role does technology play in financial oversight?
Yeah, well, that's OneRail's, kind of stock and trade. This is what we do is manage this actively. And we had to develop processes and technologies to manage it for ourselves. We deal with hundreds of millions of dollars of deliveries that, we have to oversee and pay out as well. And that's kind of one of the things we do. First and foremost, I'd say you can't manage at the scale that a lot of companies that we deal with want to without really solid, really well-designed technology processes. This just doesn't scale without technology. If you just keep throwing more people at the problem, it becomes unmanageable. Not only that, it's really extraordinarily costly and inefficient. So you need to have a source of truth system, which is really what we've developed at OneRail through our OmniPoint process. And it does need to be backed, however, with a really strong, experienced human staff that knows and understands the nuances of especially last mile delivery. That's super critical. It's really the kind of secret sauce of the mix. And you need to deploy best practices and constantly refine them. It is a full-time job, and we have a department that's all they do is optimize and manage last mile spend and look for errors, look for problems, look for consistent issues that crop up and learn from them. So unless you're prepared to invest in this type of a process on your own to manage your own spend, it's something that bringing in an expert outsider is probably worth your while.
Thanks, Ed. So following that up, 68% of companies suspecting they may be overpaying for shipments, what strategies can finance leaders implement to gain better visibility and control over their freight spend?
Would you like me to pick up on that as well, since I kind of just dealt with it?
Yep.
Absolutely. So, again, this doesn't surprise me, and they're probably right. Just our experience alone, as I said, we see routinely overcharges. And again, I want to make it clear, these are not always or very rarely are they the case of someone trying to take advantage. It's just these are a lot of individual transactions, each of which has a custom profile in terms of the services and the distances and the type of vehicles involved. So, looking at outsourcing that to someone who can kind of oversee and manage that process, I think is probably something that should be part of your mix. Maybe it's something you build internally as a shipper on your own, but you're going to need to have a source of truth system, as I mentioned. That's something OneRail has developed. And you're going to need to develop an entire expertise and focus and department around making sure you're managing this. Now, this can definitely be worth its while. As I mentioned, we deal with customers that are paying over $100 million a year in delivery expenses, and we've seen savings in the neighborhood of 5 to 10% just by better managing this. So it is something that can be absolutely a profitable use of even internal resources. However, it's going to require a lot of investment. So no matter what solution you choose, though, it's going to have to be a source of relentless focus, and it's going to have to be something that you're just constantly learning and seeing how if there are kind of themes you start to see in the data. OneRail, one of the reasons that we exist and one of the reasons that we've been successful in growing at the rate we have is because we've developed an expertise in this solution that takes all these problems off of our customers' hands. Not only do we manage the development of the network of different drivers for them, so we always have capacity where they need it, but we also manage the payments and we also manage the rectification to what should have actually been paid. We act as your eyes and ears for knowing that you're actually paying what you should. So, no matter what the solution is, whether an internal solution or outsourcing it to a third party such as OneRail, it has to be an area of focus, and a finance team is going to definitely see profit and dividends from deploying that, just because there will be a lot of leakage, there will be a lot of waste. It's just the nature of a highly complex and very fragmented delivery process.
Right. Yeah, and that's exactly, as you mentioned, why OneRail developed a brand new solution to address these very challenges. And so, Eddie, could you talk to us about this the new freight audit pay claims solution, and what does it do, and how does it tackle the challenges we've been talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's largely focused at courier and internal fleet. What we noticed, you're referencing that survey again. And and a lot of echoing what Ed's been talking about. There's this high operational costs, right? And so by doing that, right, and you could start to ask, like, why was there high operational costs? Because there's people doing more manual work. And I believe it was almost like 68% of the survey was using spreadsheets as the solution here, right? And so when you talk about that, when you see that's what's actually kind of auditing and justifying the payments of these deliveries that are happening, the whole goal is to digitalize that contract, to digitalize that rate card, and it was an easy connection for us to make. It's something that OneRail's always done. It's a lot of how we're able to accurately offer cost out to our shippers. It's how we're able to select and choose who the correct courier or carrier could be for a delivery. And so really just kind of connecting a lot of the pieces of the puzzle that we already had, and really getting it in a single place, a login, a platform that people on the shipper side can log into. Our logistics partners, like Joe, can go log into it, and they can see what are the deliveries that are being invoiced. There's the ability to dispute against them, and then we have an entire claims portal as well, right? Stuff goes wrong on deliveries. We all know that. Maybe something was damaged when it was dropped off. When we have the ability to interface with the customers as well, the end customer, and collect proof of additional damage, or maybe something happened. Invoices or receipts, and so really just streamlining all of that, digitalizing it, was the main goal of producing this product.
Thank you. That's great. So, Ed, late payments and invoice disputes constrain relationships between retailers and logistics providers. How do you balance financial accuracy with maintaining strong partnerships?
Yeah, that is an absolutely critical other side of this house is, if you're going to be establishing a reliable delivery solution to your customers, you need partners. You need the folks who actually show up, pick up the products, and drop it off your customers, and they become the face of your company to your end users. So having good relationships with them is super critical. I mean, we want to make sure that everyone that's going out and doing a OneRail delivery on behalf of a customer, that it represents that customer well. So folks who aren't getting paid on time, folks with whom you're having consistent friction and disputes, that wears at that relationship, and ultimately it can cause gaps in your network, or it can cause bad experiences for your customers. So you're 100% right, Julia. This is super critical aspect to the relationship, and you want to work with these people over a long period of time. So we find that one of the ways that we can really reduce a lot of that friction is through what's called a source of truth system, which is basically a technology platform that we have developed that allows everyone to be starting off from at least the same information. What was the delivery? Where did it go from? Where did it go to? What was the rate that was being charged on the rate card, and what additional services are being paid? If there are claims, who's responsible, how much of product was damaged, all those things. If they go into one platform, one place, and everyone can start from that spot as opposed to disputing the facts, that takes a lot of the concerns, a lot of the friction out of that relationship, and it lets you get to a seamless and easy payment cycle with people, lets you feel confident about making payments on time as a shipper. So all around, really what it means is you just have to have your data organized and in one place where everyone can access it and start from that same spot. And by doing that, everyone feels there's a trust. Everyone feels like they understand what the rules of the game are. And that way everyone can feel confident in, their counterparty, for us, the LP, or for, that logistics provider, for them, for the shipper, or for us. They can feel confident that we're going to do what we say on time, and that they can rely on that relationship, and they can invest in that relationship. So I'd say a single source of truth really can avoid a lot of those antagonizing points where everyone feels like they know what to expect, and they really want to commit to a relationship.
Yeah, thanks, Ed. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So Joseph, given that 60% of businesses have faced late fees due to payment processing challenges, as a logistics provider, what has been your experience with payment delays, and how have they affected your operations and financial stability? And how might have it affected your relationship with retailers?
Yeah. So as a carrier provider, as myself, payment delays can impact operations and financial stability, potentially straining, the relationship with retailers. Late payments, can disrupt cash flow, leading to difficulties in covering, operational costs, and potentially causing delays in deliveries. So a carrier as myself, as I said, we rely on payments to cover fuel, maintenance, payroll, etc. With the payment delays, that can create, cash flow problems, making it difficult to operate our business. So yeah, the biggest challenge we face so far is payment delays, but with a system, the FAP system, which is amazingly been going great and smoothly, that kind of helps the payment delays and all those discrepancies and stuff like that. So we can run more efficiently.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I mean, so overall, what were the biggest operational challenges you faced before using this new invoicing and payment solution?
Yeah, so the biggest thing was manually doing all the orders. There was discrepancies, kind of everywhere, because we're human, so we do errors. So that was one of our biggest ones, was manually doing it, and doing errors on there. So yeah.
Great, thank you. Eddie, 44% of respondents in our survey stated that missed overcharges and discrepancies are the most significant challenge in freight audit pay. How does this new product solution address the accuracy and verification of invoices to minimize such costly errors?
Yeah, so I kind of touched on it briefly in my previous reply of, part of what makes OneRail really special is that we're holding these rate cards in the system, and one of the key things is we're using that rate card at the time of every delivery dispatch, right? And so traditionally, where you might book through some type of third-party portal, or make a phone call, or send an email, and the deliveries you're being done, right? There's a rate that's being communicated. And then you'll get an invoice in the mail later on. So the fact that we know what cost should be way upstream in that delivery, right before the delivery is taking place, that's a huge advantage of reducing the discrepancy side of it, right? Even the overcharge side of it. And then to alleviate that, maybe something happened. Maybe a toll seems like a toll cost came in, or there's an accessorial charge of a special equipment needed to be used or a service performed that wasn't originally transmitted down to somebody like Joe's team. In that case, this offers someone like Joe the ability to come back in, like he was talking about, go into this portal, and then be able to highlight those discrepancies, right? And so we're really looking at it from that kind of how much, the core of what we got right, how many deliveries are not even being looked at or touched because they weren't overcharged, there weren't discrepancies, because that source of truth was accurate and true way further upstream than is traditional in a lot of these audit and pay softwares that are out there.
Yeah, and Joseph, you had shared earlier about what a manual process it can be and how tedious it can be for both retailers and carriers alike. And so what has been your experience since OneRail has implemented this new solution? Could you speak to, any time savings or any other benefits that you've observed?
Yeah, absolutely. So with the new system in place, it makes us, it makes our stuff way easier. We can use instead of manually inputting orders into something else, we can use our time more efficiently on other stuff that needs to be done, while that system has everything already input and it's been on point. I haven't seen no discrepancies on our end since they implemented that, which is great. But yeah, it's amazing FAP system that they created. So
Great, thanks. And this is our last data point that we have from the survey that we're sharing right now. And so to all the panelists, what are the key takeaways that you would like our attendees today to remember when evaluating their own freight audit paying claims processes? Just if you could go first, if you'd like.
Yeah, I would love to. So yeah, so what one key takeaway that I do is to make sure I have all my documents, to the freight bill and up to the final invoice. That way I can compare both of them together to make sure, they both match. So that's what I, use the most. And, looking out for common discrepancies, which, like I said earlier, which can include, the shipping weights and stuff like that, the mileage, to make sure it all adds up together. So
I'll jump in next. I would just say that the biggest takeaway is I would say ask yourself, is there a better way than a spreadsheet to be doing this? Honestly, having that source of truth, that digital record in there for more than just the auditing piece of it throughout the entire life cycle of delivery to help make better decisions on top of ensuring that the price is correct. That digital software is definitely the way to go.
Yeah, and I'd amplify on what Joe and Eddie are saying by saying, look, we've seen through our own analyses that 5+%, as much as 10% savings is definitely on the table, especially when it comes to the complex last mile delivery chain. So I guess my takeaway that I would put out there is this is totally worth your time as a shipper. To invest in running this process efficiently, whether it's building your own internal capabilities, which involves a technology investment as well as personnel and staff investment, and just kind of learning the lessons along the way, or come talk to us at OneRail. We've been doing this for 8 years. We are the experts in last mile. We offer everything from not only these technology solutions to a whole suite of decisioning and a 12 million driver network that can provide coverage across the United States for any type of delivery, from a small box like a jeweler, like we do for Signet Jewelers, all the way up to construction materials, which we do on demand for Lowe's Home Improvement. So we can provide that technology, that know-how, that expertise, that personnel and staff that can really cut off a lot of these wasteful leakages that are just going to be a consequence of running a delivery service to your customers. I think it's one of those unavoidable truths of the business world. and you just have to have a strategy to address it. But like I said, if you're doing this at scale and intend to make this a part of your competitive offering, it's totally worth your time to invest in strategies to make sure that you're not leaking money all over the place, because it will absolutely drag you down financially. And it's just something that, let me just put it this way: if I had a large expense like a payroll that I was overpaying by 5 to 8% a year, I'd be in real trouble. So this is one of those things that's absolutely worth addressing as quickly as you can if you're in a financial seat.
Thanks, guys. So we're going to move on to open it up to attendees to ask any questions. If you guys want to use the Q&A section of the meeting, you can type in your questions here, and our panel can work on addressing any questions you might have. So I'll just pause for a minute to allow this to come in. Okay, so the first question we got in is, how is this solution different than other freight audit and pay solutions that are out there?
Yeah, I'll get this one. That's a good question. So like I mentioned, we ran an RFP and did market research. We were really trying to figure out, what is being offered out there. And the biggest thing I'll say is that really specifically for courier, it's non-existent is what we found. There's a lot of just freight audit and pay solutions in the freight spaces, right? For your LTLs and FTLs, Parcel definitely has audit solutions out there. But when you start to shop around and you start to look for, well, how do I audit these third-party couriers? How do I audit my internal fleet? And look at some of the differences in how rate cards are structured and some of the expectations around billing cycles and things like that. We really noticed that it just doesn't exist. So this is completely different. It's a new product really in the market. Let's see, we got one about claims. I'll take the first half of it, and Ed, I don't know if you want to add anything else, but we have a claims portal. It's a digital experience where folks can log in. It references the delivery that took place. We collect proof of delivery in the form of signatures and photographs, and so that kind of gets cross-referenced with what somebody that's submitting a claim is saying. Well, actually, I believe this happened, and here's here are photos of what took place and kind of an outline there, and it really just puts it into that kind of almost like a support ticket, if you will. Right, we're all kind of familiar with that, and it's a different exercise than maybe you go to like a retail website and there's like a chat bot of how should I buy something? How should I buy this couch? Or how should I buy this furniture? And this is really just, those are generic questions. So when you have a claim, you're really trying to say like this order, right? My order 1, 2, 3 had this problem. How can I fix this problem? So by putting it in there, connecting it to a rep on the OneRail side that's able to help troubleshoot that claim, validate that claim, and push it forward, it really just streamlines that process, and it doesn't become this huge path and maze that you're trying to navigate through just to justify that claim. Ed, I don't know if you want to add anything else.
Sure. Once the technologies help capture kind of the particulars of the claim, like say any photographic evidence, specifics about it, we have a process. Again, this gets to the combination of technology with kind of expert human. I think you need this kind of this hybrid approach to making this work well. We triage it through a number of different decisions to the extent that we can evaluate that simply based on photographic evidence, or it wasn't delivered, or here's the damage. We can expedite process and payment almost immediately. To the extent that it's a more complex claim, if sometimes we have damage that was done to a home, so someone is backing up and delivering your products to a home and runs over the mailbox or something like that, right? That might involve more investigation. We actually do employ insurance experts whose entire role it is to essentially manage that claims process from beginning to end to ensure a fair solution on it. So we track everything in our system in terms of speed of closing out a claim. And as I mentioned, a lot of this does come down to having the right people in the right places at the right time. So the technology can get you only so far, but at the end of the day, there is still a role for expert humans to play in this. And the role of the technology and this whole process that Eddie mentioned is to make sure that we get the right information to the right people when it's most relevant.
Thank you, guys. Well, if there's no further questions, then I just want to thank our panel and everyone else for joining us today. And please reach out with any questions, any additional questions. You can contact us using the QR code here on the screen. And for a copy of the full report that we did off the survey that we were mentioning, you can also use the other QR code on the screen. So thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Yeah.
Thanks, Julia.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Julia. Thanks all.